I would love to hear your thoughts, hear any thoughts or memories you have of Troy Dream Machine Graham.
The Dream Machine, Troy Graham was a guy from Memphis that was a wrestling fan when he was young, just like all of us. And he got around the business. By the time he was 20, he was like 6 feet tall, but he was close to 300 pounds, but he could move around. And he grew up poor in the Memphis area, and he had just a gift of gab, and he was kind of a street bullshitter. And then he got in and he learned to work, and he worked some in the Mississippi territory and had a great respect for Frankie Kane, the great Mephisto, as a booker. And he had worked East Tennessee, that territory, as Troy T. Tyler, I think. And he basically had bleached blonde hair, and he did kind of a shuck and jive bullshit promo, kind of like Dusty, which became greatly like Dusty as it went along, because he wanted to get booked in Memphis, and that's when Lawler was coming back from his broken leg. And Jimmy Hart needed a big challenger for Lawler to come back and blow through the first week. And the first week was going to sell out, they knew, regardless. So they decided to put Troy Graham under a mask and call him the Dream Machine. And the obviously the fans would never be led to believe, except by many things that everybody said, that this was somehow Dusty Rhodes under a mask and coming to stop Jerry Lawler. So it would, draw, right? But Dream got in there and did such a great job. He took upside down bumps into the turnbuckles, and he bumped all over big backdrops and just unorthodox shit. And not only worked his ass off, but ended up with enough charisma that he got a spot pretty much for the next 2 years. As first he was a heel, then he was a babyface, then he turned heel again. Then he was one of the Bruise Brothers, Jimmy Hart's Bruise Brothers, with Pork Chop Cash. So like, as a matter of fact, 3 years after that, he was still there. He had a great run. He ended up losing weight about the first year in and went from like 285 to 235 and could move even better. He was a great, one of the undiscovered great promos of all time. He did a lot of Tom Boogaloo Shaft jive shit from Georgia that he'd seen growing up. And imagine Dusty Rhodes' delivery, but with, a cross between Tom Shaft and fucking Howlin' Wolf, and a little George Thorogood thrown in, which was, of course, Bo Diddley, blah, blah, blah. He could talk his ass off. One of my favorite things was when he said one time, he said, "Just because your breath smells like cheetahs ain't no sign that you're Tarzan," which appealed to us down south here, but nevertheless. And I used to ride with him even before I got into business. When I would shoot pictures on Monday nights in Memphis, he would ride all the way back to Louisville with me that night, because I lived in Louisville and he lived in Memphis, but he stayed up all night. So he'd come in and check in at the Days Inn in Jeffersonville on a new day at 6 a.m., and I'd come home and go to sleep, and then go back and pick him up and take him to the matches. And it was great to ride with him, because I had to be up because I was driving, and he was always up.
Well, that's youth. I think that's what that is.
No, that was pharmaceuticals in his case.
Oh, well, sometimes pharmaceuticals can replace youth.
But he was one of the funniest, one of the nicest guys, and one of the best undiscovered talents that I've ever seen in the business.
Well, I enjoyed this one. This was a nice reminisce. And I've discovered an entirely new character that I'm really curious to see footage of. WWE, do you have that footage? Can I see that?
No, actually, I can tell you where you can see much of that footage. Go to YouTube, because the WWE does not own the Memphis footage, but I have the biggest collection of it in the world, and my rookie year video does contain some Dream Machine, as a matter of fact.
Oh, cool.
That's available at jimcornette.com, but go to YouTube, everybody, and look up the Dream Machine Memphis Wrestling. And especially any of his promos. I'm sorry, but Dream was one hilarious motherfucker and loved the wrestling business.
Well, I look forward to seeing it.
Unfortunately, had a really bad broken ankle in the late 80s, and even did the wheelchair manager gimmick for a while. And that kind of derailed him, and he was out of the business, and he passed away a few years ago, just to bring things to a down note. But everybody should get together and make it a point, if you're in the cult of Cornette, support the Dream Machine. Not only a hero of mine in the ring, but a personal friend outside of it. People should be watching the fucking Dream Machine. He was hilarious.